All right, any questions? Okay, let's get started. So today we're going to pick back up on what Abby started with us, which is Photoshop. So today's going to be a lot of focus on selection tools, on how we select things, how we move things from the background, and how we can move things around. So what I want you to do is go where your files are, where the images are. And I want you to first right click on Pretty Landscape, open with Adobe Photoshop CC 2018. I also want you to do the same thing with the full moon. And what you should notice is that there's two tabs open up top. And you can go between these tabs. And so what we're going to do today is I want us to take this moon, I want us to put it in this landscape, but then I want to make sure that it matches, that it blends in with the scene. Now let's be honest, in this picture perfect background, a moon's probably not going to make much sense. But in other photos, things we may bring in, it may make a little bit more sense. So one of the selection tools that I want us to do, and make sure you have the full moon showing, is we're going to use the elliptical marquee tool. And in doing this, and I want y'all to watch up here for right now, when you select things, if I draw without pressing anything, I can make this any shape I want. If I want it to be, and whenever you want to get rid of a selection, do your Command or Control D, and it'll deselect. But if I want to make this a perfect circle, what am I going to push before I click? Anybody? Shift. And all these programs that we work in, if you press Shift, it'll give you a proportionate shape. So if we want to do a square, same thing. Shift will do that for us. All right. So what we're going to do is I want us to select the moon. We're going to get close and move. Now, in the event that you want to move where your selection starts and ends. So if I want to come over here a little bit to the left while I'm doing it to try to get this shape, then I'm going to press space bar. And so if you watch this, if I press space bar, it moves it. I let go space bar and I can continue. Space bar to move it and do it. And so when I'm doing this moon, I'll go like this. I'll space bar to move it to get to the edges, and I'll keep going until I have the whole thing selected. What I want you to do now is using this tool and space bar to help move your mouse where you want it. I want you to select this moon and do not get any of the black edge on it. Good?
If you have a rectangle, just click on it and hold down for a second, and then let up and more options.
Hey, remember, this is the same thing that I talked about last time. On any of these tools, if you see a white arrow on the bottom right corner, that means there's more than one tool underneath it. Click and hold, find your tool, select it. Okay, so when you hit the space bar, don't let go of your mouse. So when you're hitting space bar to move things around, do not let go of your mouse. Hold space bar, move your mouse. It'll move you somewhere else on the screen. Let go of space bar, still holding your mouse, and then continue your selection. When you're hitting that space bar, moving it. All right, so listen up real quick. When you're holding that space bar to move, which way are you drawing as you're doing your selection? We're going from the top to bottom, left to right, right? So we're going this way. You should be holding space bar and moving up and left, and then letting go and continuing down and right. So move it in the opposite direction so you can focus your shape on there, and then do that. Does that make sense? So you can probably do a little bit more. So once you're done with this part, the easiest thing to do this shape is to deselect it. Yeah, I know. But before you let go, that's what I'm saying. You can play that. So you get where you want. So we're clicking and dragging to select to make the size of our shape, right? When we hold space bar, it's going to move our whole selection over to get us to this top. So it keeps moving us here while not messing with our selection. When we let it go, we can keep selecting. So it gives us a break in our selection process to move our shape over and then keep going. Okay, so are we making a perfect circle here? Right, so that's a good point. We don't know if it's a perfect circle. So in this instance, we wouldn't hold shift. Shift is only so you know that if you ever needed to do a perfect shape, you would hold shift. After you stop doing it, we're going to shape the way we want. Space bar. The space bar moves our selection. I think you probably be better now. So right now, I need to keep selecting over here, but I'm all the way down here, right? So press space bar should allow you to move your selection up. All right, it's hard to do it on yours. It's not working perfect. So we'll. I would recommend maybe an external mouse. That'll give you a little bit more maneuverability. All right, so we have our moon selected. I want you to copy and paste it, Command or Control C. So just copy. Then let's go to our, what do we call this one again? Pretty landscape, and paste. So Command or Control V. Make sure you come over here and select your move tool before we start doing anything. And I want us to move our moon over here in the top left. So this is the most basic function of taking one item out of an image and putting that item in another image. Okay? Now, what do we think about in terms of the moon matching the background? Okay, I agree. What did y'all notice about what happened to our layers panel whenever we brought this shape in? Right? Okay, so remember that is that when you're trying to do stuff, you need to be on the correct layer. The only thing that is on layer 1, and you can see it over here, is our moon. So you remember that because we're going to keep adding things to this landscape. So one of the features, one of the editing techniques we have is to use a where is she? We could change our view of this item that we've placed in here into screen. And what screen does is it'll take out that color a little bit and blend it a little bit more into that background. So now we've got this a little bit more where this matches a little bit, right? Would y'all agree? All right, so the next thing we want to do is, I think this is better. Would we agree? All right, so let's focus on blending this a little bit more. So what I want you to do is hold your Alt, which I think is Option or Alt, and we're going to click Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer. So down here at the bottom of our layers panel. And let's go with brightness and contrast. Still holding Alt, because what Alt's going to do is give us the opportunity for this dialog to come out without just creating the layer. If we don't hold Alt, it'll just create the layer. And we want this dialog so we can use and select use previous layer to create clipping mask. So what this does is that any changes we make only affects the layer that we want and not the background layer. Alt, brightness and contrast. Once you select, check the box, use previous layer to create clipping mask, press OK. So what you should have is you should see a brightness and contrast layer shows up here, and the properties panel comes up for brightness and contrast. From here, we'll play with contrast. And if you move contrast left and right, you'll see that we can bring a little bit more clarity to our moon. That way it still blends, but it also doesn't fade out too much into the background. So bring some of that clarity back into our moon. So let me ask you this, in looking at what you have there you can take a look at what I have here. What are we going to compare the moon to in terms of in this image? All right. Is there any color difference? What's the color difference? Okay. Well, I figured this would be a color. I mean, it looks reddish to me, but sure. The point is we still have color in our moon, correct? All right. So let's take some of that color out. Our option here, make sure your layer 1 is selected. Not our adjustment layer is the brightness and contrast, but we want to make this to the actual image itself. So select layer 1. What are you talking about? This right here? Yes. That doesn't matter. We're not. All right. So I want you to go to image. Adjustment. And now we're going to desaturate. We're going to take some of that color out. So a lot better, right? So I'm just going through a few adjustments that we could make, and there's multiple adjustments. A few adjustments that we can make to help something blend if we take one image and put it in a different image. Now, obviously, I don't know how big y'all's is, but the size that it brought it on mine's pretty big. How about y'all's? Okay. So make sure your layer 1 selected. Let's come up here to our top menu bar and select Show Transform Controls. You'll see we get the bounding boxes with our handles. Before you resize anything, to proportionally increase or decrease size, press Shift. So hold Shift, grab this bottom right corner or handle, and resize your moon to what it might look like or what you think or how you'd like it to show, and do something like that. After you've resized it, let go of your mouse, then let go of Shift. If you let go of Shift before you let go of your mouse, it still has the chance to distort your image, meaning squishing it left to right or top to bottom. When you're done to get rid of those bounding boxes, now when you get done, you can't see it on mine because this is up here. There's a little check box or an X. If we try to select a different tool, we need to go into where we apply it. So apply it, and then it goes like that. You can just hit the check mark as well. You just can't see it on my screen. But the check mark is somewhere right here, I think. Deselect it, and then this is what we have. Now with the moon, this was almost, but not completely, almost a perfect circle, right? A lot of the things that we're going to select and want to move out of things, though, that doesn't apply. So, or it's not always true. So we have our lasso tool. Our lasso tool allows us to draw our selection parameter around the object that we want to select, say if it's not a perfect circle, square, or something similar to that. So what I want us to do is go ahead and click your lasso tool, which is right here. If you don't see it, hold down, and you see there's some other tools there. So And I want you just to watch this before you do anything. So if I want to select this cloud, for instance, I can draw around it and select. Now I want to deselect. Maybe if I want to do an exact, because it's a square, I can hold Alt, click. Stand by. You can do a little bit more exact if you click, click, click kind of thing, okay? So you have multiple ways you can do it. You can do it a little bit more precise like that, or if what you're trying to select isn't, again, a precise shape, then we would draw around it. So what I want you to do is I want you to go and open the feed photo in Photoshop. And remember, over here, if you have windows open, you can collapse them by clicking. What I want us to do is get your feed photo where it almost takes up the whole screen so you can zoom. To get it roughly in the middle. Is everybody here? All right, so watch this first, and then I want you to do your try, and then we'll go through a few editing things. But if you take a look at what I'm doing, what I want you to do is I want you to trace around the edges so we can select this pile of feed. Before we do anything, let's unlock our layer. That'll give us a little bit of options to do something else we want to do later. So double click it, that layer like that, it should pop up, and then just type in feed and press OK. And you'll see that it's no longer locked. And what I want you to do is now I want us to trace as close as we can without touching the main pile of food. So I'm going to go like this. I'll have the option if I want to leave that out, choose what I want, but keep going around. And I want you to select and keep going. And that's definitely not good. Don't do that. So I want you to keep going around. I want you to select the feed. You're going to have to hold the mouse the whole time. No. I was trying to find what that quickly is. I never wrote that down. You don't know until you try. Hey, let me tell you what, it's a lot easier if you have a mouse. On your mouse, you could use your 2 fingers. But I'm definitely gonna, I'll try to look to see if there's any quick keys. So you need to come back all the way back around like this, let go, and then you'll get a selection box. Kelsey Hollis. Hey, if you're not following along, you don't need to be here. You can leave. Okay, I want you to schedule me with me, but you can leave. You don't have to connect it exactly. Get it roughly in the area of where you started. And then what you should do is when you get done, it should make kind of a box like this. Yes, you can let it go when you get around. It's not shift them on, it's something. And when I find out, I'll let y'all know. But there has to be something a little bit easier so we can kind of do it that way. Abigail, do you know? Yeah, I'll find out for y'all. List of things to do. Because I know right now my hands are a little bit sticky for some reason. And so when I'm going, it's like, so I'm doing like this, and then I'm coming with thumb, and I'm over here going like this. But if you're smart, you have it. All right, are we here? Roughly, this isn't going to be perfect, but this is where we're here. All right, so what I want us to do now is come over here and push the select and mask button up top on the top menu bar. And what we should do is now get a properties dialog here on the right side. There's select and mask on the top menu bar. And what you should see is we have our selection where we went. This is the background which is removed. And we have a couple of options in the background that we can see it against. Personally, if I come over here to view, click the drop down, I like it on black, and it does it like that. If you have like a checkered board, I think that's probably, it's like transparency. Interesting. Huh? Don't do black and white, do black. Black. You need to have the layers selected. No. Oh, what you got? Just get a black background, don't do anything else. On the bottom, on the very bottom. Okay. Let me get you back here. I know. You stay where you're at. So we're here, correct? So the first thing we have is edge detection. This will help bring in our selection based on what we have, based on the edges of it. So we move it. As you go, you'll watch to see that it actually gets pretty close. Now, had I done a more proper, precise selection around my feed, it would do a lot better than what I have it now. But with what we have, this is where we're at. Okay? So your selection may take a while, but if you get your selection just right and take that time to get it selected right, once we start using these other features, we'll be able to use it more precisely. This is especially helpful when edges aren't perfect, but I also want you to think about in terms of people when we're selecting them. What is part of a person, two parts of a person that would help with this type of a selection? So hair, yes, I don't think face, they have pretty defined lines. What else besides hair? Clothes. Those are the two things that move. And it would be a lot harder to select if we use, say, the other search tool that we used earlier. That's all right. Melinda just had that problem. And I brought it up here so I could figure it out. And then I was like, oh, not like I had done it before. Okay. So once you've done that, played with your edges. Now listen, if you've had a more precise selection, you may have noticed that you can't go all the way to the end with edge detection because it starts infringing on the edge of the feed. Okay? So make sure you get in a part where you're not jumping too much on the feed, but you're right at the edge with your edge detection. And once you've done that, let's press OK. And once it goes back to our original picture. It's adjusted our selection based on our edge detection stuff that we've done. And now this is where we're at. And what we want to do is get rid of the background. I used this on a poster when I was in Belgium. So I took a bunch of pictures of different feed, and then I went and got rid of the background. So for you to get rid of the background, right now if we press delete, what's it going to delete? The feed. We want the feed. So let's go up here to our top menu bar, click the select drop down, and go to inverse. And when we select the inverse, while you cannot tell right now, it's selected the background. And if we press delete, the background disappears. And now we can use this any way we want. It's fancy, huh? It's almost like magic. If we want to keep this transparency, if we want to keep this transparency, we'll do two things. We have two options. First, if we're using this for print or something like that, we'll use a .png file or file extension. If we're using this for video, .eps. This maintains our transparency. I was going to write transparency, but then I got a little nervous I couldn't spell it right. And this is the worst. Let's see. If I ever can't spell it right, you'll see this. Transparency. It's easy there. All right. So, listen. If you want to maintain transparency, this checkerboard on the back like this means that there's no background. Can y'all think of an instance where we would want to do this? A common instance? Logos. All right. If you've noticed, if you've downloaded the logo kit from UTIA Marketing Communications, some of them they've already removed the background, but sometimes you'll come across a logo that has a white background. We can get rid of that and then save us transparency. That way we can put it on top of anything we want, any color, and we don't have to worry about that white background. Okay? We're gonna do a logo like that, and you'll see how it works. But I use this function, getting rid of the background, all the time. Okay. Now, let's go to our images. And now I want us to right click and open the giant daisy. Okay, so listen, how many of you tried to delete your background and couldn't delete it? Okay, so I love this. Y'all will sit there and be like, hell no, I ain't saying that. All right. So what I want you to do, for those of you that raise your hand, I want you to take a look at your layers panel. Of those that raise your hand, raise your hands. No, don't be shy. All right. So keep your hands raised. Of those that are raising their hands right now, those that do not see a lock button, put your hand down. That do not see this lock right here. Okay. So the first step you missed, when we double clicked on this layer to unlock it and rename it feed, it has to be unlocked for us to remove the background. Okay? Let's learn a lesson. What I was really hoping is all your hands stayed up, because if they didn't, that means there's another problem and I have to figure out what the problem is. That's the hardest thing to do. Good? I know. It's tricky. You got to follow all the different steps. All right, so we have the giant daisy open in Photoshop, correct? Good? Now, my favorite tool. I think this is the coolest tool because it's magic. Plus, it's a wand, so it's inferred that there's magic in it. So come over here to our tools panel. Select and make sure you select the magic wand tool. See? Magic. Over here, tool panel, it has a little bit of sprinkles on it. I guess that's the magic. If you don't see it, you may see quick selection, but I want you to go down to magic wand. So you may have to hold down over here and come here. I'm sorry, that's not any health insurance. All right. So what the magic selection tool does, are y'all listening? Your magic selection tool selects things based on color, which is great for some things. Others, not so much. But we have additional features that will help us expand sometimes. So what I want you to do is, what's your tolerance level over here right here? 32? All right, good to go. With our magic wand tool, select somewhere in the green. You can select in different places, but select it. If you click again, it'll remove it and select again. So get roughly here. Well, yeah, click one and try to get somewhere around where you have spots like this. We'll improve it. All right, so this did an okay job, but we want all the green. So what I want you to do, let's come up here, set our tolerance to 50, press enter, and come back and select. And what you should see is it improves it. Press enter. It won't. Then you have to come back down, click to deselect your green, and then select again, click again to select your green. And so you should see now is that it really does a lot better, but I still have spots. So we have two options. Option one, let's increase our tolerance to 100, press enter, and then select again. I'm clicking the magic wand tool on the green. So it should be, yes. So it'll go around here. This is all selected. This is all, see where all the dotted, the little, what do they call them, running ants? You see how they roughly go around the whole thing there? That's what we want to happen. All right. So what we did is we took our tolerance from 32 to what? To 50, then to 100. Now, logically, what would you say to do on the next one? Well, you can't go past 100.
You can, I just want to.
Did you?
Yeah. Sorry.
What I'd be careful here is that not every image you're trying to do this with is going to work exactly the same. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to do Command or Control D. So deselect it, and I want you to take our tolerance back down to 50. And I want you to click somewhere on the image again, like this. Are we all here? Now what we're going to use is we're going to use a grow function. And what the grow does is it will select the similar color adjacent to where you selected, where you clicked with the magic wand tool, but adjacent. It doesn't jump all over the picture. We have another feature where you can jump anywhere on the picture with a similar color. So I want you to go to select the top menu, and then I want you to pick grow. And you should see it roughly selects everything. And in a perfect world, it would select everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift and start clicking in these places it didn't select for me, but just on the green. And then it should select everything just like we did at the 100 tolerance. Okay? These are multiple ways to do this. The 100% for Jade, the 2000% tolerance level allowed us to select things on there, but you need to use these skills the different ways in which way best fits your situation, okay? So it won't always fit this. Now, I want to select, what do we select? The green.
So if we were doing this in like real life, how like what is it that we using like this like this situation with music? How would we process like
Okay, so first of all, this is real life.
or no, okay.
Okay, so but what we're going to do next, I want you to pay attention. The idea is no different than what we did with the move. If we want to take something out, like I've seen it in one an advertisement, they took a person out of a picture and they put them into another picture to use it because they wanted somebody to add to their advertisement, right? They wanted to put a face with that, and that's fine. The idea is that there could be any situation where you want to take something out and make some kind of an edit to make it artistic. All right, so art is not only in capturing the photo. I think a lot of the real art comes in how people are able to manipulate the photos in the editing process. Okay?
So we just find these are so this is like we're all finding different ways to get stuff out.
We are using different tools to manipulate our photos.
Okay.
So for now, what we're doing today is a lot more of selection
Oh, okay.
and different ways we can select it.
Now I understand. I thought these were like different concepts. And I was like, it's not the same thing as like circle, like drawing with the circle.
But the circle, we couldn't do what we just did here.
Okay, now I understand. Now I'm on.
We're good? Everybody else? All right. Now, one thing I didn't say is I want you to pay attention to this. In terms of the color, the green, the colors are more contrasting here, right? And the green, to me, why we selected the green, because it's easier to select than probably this flower. So if, say, in the pretty landscape, what might be the best? If we wanted to manipulate the sky, for instance, and change it a different color. You noticed on Instagram, people do this kind of stuff. Do you think it'd be easier to select the green or the blue? Probably the green, right? So find the color that's dominant. And when you don't have a contrasting color, it gets a little bit harder, right? That's when we have our lasso tool and we do a different way to select things. So what I want us to do is we want to select the actual flower, the daisy. Where's she at? So right now we have the green selected. So let's go through that same process of select, inverse, and now you'll see that the running ants are no longer along the green because it's just our flower, our daisy. And I want you to copy and paste that into our pretty landscape. Command or Control C. Go to our pretty landscape, paste. All right, make sure when you paste that you have the background layer selected. So if I undo this, select the background layer, probably best, and paste. And you'll see that it adds it. Select your background layer. Good. It still created a separate layer for the daisy. And you'll notice is that the daisy is behind the sun, correct? Why is that? No. Well, I selected the background. Pay attention. I selected the background. I copy and pasted the daisy into the photo. It created its own layer. Now tell me why the sunflower is behind the sun or moon. The order of your layers dictates what comes up on top and what's on bottom. So if I wanted the daisy to be up front, then I would do that. I would, you can easily grab the layers and move them around. But what I want us to do here is I want you to actually, with the layer, choose select it. Oops. Make sure that you have your move tool selected. And if it's not showing, make sure you have the box show transform controls clicked. And what I want us to do, I want you to do two parts. I want you to resize this, and I want you to reposition it on this picture where it's in this bottom left-hand corner, and it doesn't look awkward to where, if you look at right here, it stops right here. So if I put it like this in the photo, it's not gonna look good. So I want you to resize it and then manipulate its orientation to put it in the bottom left-hand corner where it actually looks intentional and not like a mistake because it's cut off right there. If you put your mouse at the edge, it'll give you the two-sided arrow like here. And then you click and you can rotate like that. So if you take a look how mine does, I can rotate. So what did we do last time? There's no different than every other time we resized. Okay, what do we do? We hit shift, click one of the anchor points, bottom, most likely the bottom right hand corner, and resize. Hold shift, let go of your mouse, then let go of shift. If not, it will store it. I point down there. But it needs to, you need to make sure that it blends to where I can't see that it's cut off. I'll figure that out. Resize it, place its orientation, so it looks hard enough.
In the corner.
Think about your size and the orientation. They both matter and how this should be presented in the bottom left-hand corner. The orientation, rotating. So is it up and down? Is it coming in like it did? Did I turn it? How you angle it in the photo is the orientation. Okay. So if you resized it, and played with the orientation some, you should have been able to create something like that, correct? Where it fits in the corner, and actually, I don't like that. I bring it down a little bit so you can't see where it cuts off. Then I press. All right, are we here? So I can't see the edges. I'd argue that you maybe can see a little bit here, so I move it back. Okay. So we have it here. Any questions here? Okay. I want us to open the Yamaha logo. We want to erase the background here. What do we have to do first? Huh? Nope. Well, we're going to use that, but what do we have to do before we can even start selecting? There we go. Double click, unlock the layer, put logo, name it logo. Remember this, if we want to get the background, rid of the background like this, we need to unlock our layer, our background layer. And then like Haley Rose said, let's select our magic wand tool because we want to select the white. And then I want you to go here, select, so click your mouse, and then press delete. So what do we think here? Okay, so this is going to be a common problem on something like this because it's only going to grab things just like Grow did, anything that's adjacent. That means if a color interrupts, it's not going to get it. So I want you to Command Control Z. And with our selection still on, you still see the running ants? Let's go to Select, and let's go to Similar. This is going to select anything in the picture that has the same color, and then press Delete. So you shouldn't see any white or anything like that. Now, I'm going to undo this, and I want you to watch this real quick. So, can I have your eyes? So I'm gonna delete this background. Say for some instance, Similar is not going to work in the photo. So I've deleted this part. I can individually go, select this white, and do one piece at a time and select it. I want you to know that because if you get in a situation where you're trying to select different things, this is a different way to go about it because, again, Grow and Similar are not going to always work. Make sense? All right, cool. We're rocking and rolling. All right, let's open another photo. I want you to open up the leaf image in Photoshop. What I got, five minutes? All right, we're gonna use every bit of this 5. All right, I want you to zoom in. Put it where that leaf is roughly the size, fit it perfectly in that screen, but you can see the edges. Make sure you can see the complete leaf. And what we're gonna do is where our magic wand tool is, I want us to go and use the quick selection tool. The quick selection tool picks up on color and tone as well, but it's also able to pick up on textures and identify edges. So another feature we may want to use. Now, let's see if y'all remember, because I'm pretty sure Abigail went over it. How do you adjust the size of your selection tool? quick keys. There's 5 points on this. Besides, you can't get any points. Huh? Well, there is on that, but there's a quick key. Did you cover this? All right. Well, Dr. Leal knows, so he got the 5 extra credit points. That sucks for y'all. All right. Your bracket. The bracket keys on your computer. You can increase the size of your brushes or decrease quick keys. Now, Kaylin was right. If you come over here and you see this number, you can adjust the size manually. But I'm telling you now, in the sense of working as you start doing this more regularly, the bracket keys, they're clutch. So is command control with the plus or minus sign to zoom or zoom out, zoom in and out. If your trackpad allows you to pinch, zooming in and out, that's also what you want to do. So we're going to select this leaf. What I want you to be cognizant of is we're going to select the leaf, but we're also going to do the stem. That means you need to adjust your brush size to accommodate your selection, the item you're selecting. You can click here, let go, and keep clicking, and it'll still allow you to keep selecting. This works a little bit different than our lasso tool. So if you watch here, I'm going to start dragging or clicking. You can click and drag. And so I have the whole leaf selected. Now I want to do the stem. I'm going to zoom in before I start. And I'm going to take this brush size down. And I'm going to start clicking on my stem. So I want y'all to select the leaf and the stem. If you accidentally select something, and you want to deselect it, if you press Option or Alt and click, it'll take it away. If you let go and click again, it'll add it. If you press Option or Control, right now we're adding to our selection. You'll see that there's a plus sign in our brush, right? There's a plus in there. If I hold Option or Alt, it changes it to a minus, means it'll take away from your selection. So you can continuously add or subtract from your selection based on when you have. You can also come up here and there's a minus or a plus sign, but I think it's easier to use a quick key and go back and forth. So let's roughly get it here and let's zoom back out a little bit. So here, what I want us to do is we're going to go back and click the select and mask button again, where it's going to bring it up, and it should still keep it in. I'm going to do it on black. It put it on white. Actually, let's leave it on white. I came and I select and mask button that's over here, remember? We did on the last one, and it should bring up this dialog. Back here, there's a select and mask. If you look where I'm at, click it, the dialog comes up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth with all the different functions to help select our leaf a little bit better. So our radius, used when we have complex edges and tells Photoshop to pay attention to those edges. So we'll go with our radius. I'll play with it, and you'll see that I'll move it slightly over to where the black disappears, any black I had. Don't go all the way over where it starts doing this weird stuff. Actually, let's switch our view to black, see if that shows up better. So see the point here where it starts affecting the background? See how that background's doing weird things with lighting? That means we've gone too much. So come back and right before that point, although I still think actually the white shows better for me. Sorry. So we're going to adjust our radius first, and we're going to play with that slider until it gets where we need it. How many of you have to leave to go to class next? All right, you can leave. You can look at the recording. I want to finish this up. For those of you, anybody else need to leave right now? Okay. You have to leave right now. You're more than welcome to go. But I want to finish this out. All right, so let's continue from where here. Our smooth tool smooths the edges of our selection. So if you grab that slider and you move it, pay attention to what it's doing to the edges, and you can see where it gets rid of. And we're trying to get rid of, actually none for me seems to work a little bit better. Well, actually, I can go a little bit where it makes those edges defined. So my smooth's at 33. Feather softens our edges. So if we play with our feather, you can kind of see what it's doing to get rid of some of that black. And the idea I want you to is play with each of these sliders to see what it's doing on your selection. But what we want is to get it more defined on every bit of this leaf and the stem. So remember, smooths the edges of the selection, the divots, okay? I can tell you all day what it does. You practicing it and seeing what it does in real life is more reflective of how it works as a selection tool or selection function. Contrast helps make the edges more defined and enhances some of the definition. So if I use contrast, and sometimes the best thing to do is go to the very edge or the extremes to see what it's doing. But what you see that for me, it got rid of a little bit of the black background that was still showing up over here on my leaf. And then we have our shift edge tool. So this helps shift the selection a bit with the original photo in consideration. So this can help decrease or increase our selection of the original photo. So again, play with it. If it starts turning white, it's going out of the selection in this instance. So I just want to make sure that it's selected, and we'll go from here. And then when you're done, press OK. And what you'll see, same thing as our other selection, like when we did with the feed, when we're done, it brings it back and you'll see our running ants on our selection where we've done that. And then I'm going to show y'all one more. The exporting stuff I'll put online. That way y'all won't have to worry about that. But what I want y'all to do is open up the hay photo. And I want you to zoom in. Can you check to see if they're waiting outside? Just look very, yeah. Really, we want to keep the room. All right. So the last thing that I want us to talk about is content aware. What this allows us to do is remove things from the background, and it samples things around what we remove to create a new image for us, okay? On this instance, we do not unlock our background. What I want you to do is go ahead and select our lasso tool. Are they out there? Okay. So with our lasso tool here, if we select this right here, say this antenna back here, press delete, and then content aware comes up. We press OK and press Command or Control D. You'll notice that it takes away that antenna and uses, samples everything around it. Don't get too big because it'll take too much stuff. But this is how we get rid of some things that come out of the back of people's heads or things that we mess up in terms of whenever we're capturing the footage. So I press delete. So once I selected it, I pressed delete. It came up. Make sure content aware is in the contents box. Press OK. It disappears. And then Control or Command D. Good? All right. I just want to let y'all know that for no extra charge, you got 10 more minutes of education. All right? All right. Y'all have a good fall break. I will put the rest of these lecture notes online on video in addition to this one.